Wow, it was great to see all those people there today.
Yeah, right. So it was really cool to see all of the people who had been protesting. I mean, the one thing about Arizona is it does not have a lack of protesters who want things done for education.
Exactly, exactly. We got some passionate teachers here that have sacrificed so much and are still willing to stay around for the fight.
I mean, think about that. You're getting paid as low as you are, and you still just do it just because of the kids. You got to get a second, third, job in order to support your family, pay for mortgages, and this is how Arizona treats you. While the governor gives his staff a higher percentage than he ever will teachers.
Right. And these teachers are highly educated. They have to have a master's to even teach in the classroom. And they're still not getting paid as someone in the corporations that would have that much education and still don't get paid as much.
So listen to some of these interviews and tell us what you think. These people are really passionate. Hi, what's your name?
Roxanne Lopez.
And Roxanne, what brings you here today?
I am here to be the voice for so many teachers that can't make it here today, partly due to their second jobs. And I'm just here to be that voice. I've stayed quiet for 23 years, hoping things would change, and things are not changing for our state.
Now, I'm from New Jersey, which is a much more liberal state, and my mother and father are both educators, and they were able to do well for themselves even in that state. Over here, where the cost of living is a lot less than other places, it seems like they still can't get a break, and the teachers do have second, third jobs. What do you think it's going to take in order for us to get to a level where we're competitive in other states?
It's going to take more and more teachers, and it's unfortunate, amazing teachers that are going to be leaving the profession. And it makes me so sad because we need quality teachers in the classroom. And parents need to understand and see that. And the legislature needs to see that we're not just here for a paycheck. We've already stressed that to everyone. We're here to make a difference. We're here to educate our future. This is our future. You just said New Jersey, they're number 2 in the nation. We're number 51 in the nation. It's just so sad to me that this is happening in our state.
And that is the one thing. It's like in this state, it seems like it's forgotten, whether it's from the legislators here on top, such as the governor, but also the president. If you were able to get the raises that you demand and that you deserve, and the students got the schooling and education that they deserve, how much of an investment do you think it would be in return for the state, such as the students being a return on investment?
Well, if you look at our test scores, you see that. It reflects if we don't have, and I hate to keep putting the dollar sign on it, but if we don't have that pay raise and that care and that quality teacher in the classroom, we're not going to see that in our students. And we have to I keep going back to say there's just let's put a warm body in. You have a college degree, you can be a teacher. No, you can't. There's far more than that. In teaching. There's far more than that. There's the empathy side of it that, I sit in my classroom and I go, I wonder if Johnny had breakfast today. I wonder if that happened. They don't see the legislature. They're not in our classrooms to see what we're dealing with day in and day out. And we walk out with a smile on our faces because we're there for the children.
Well, thank you for your time, Roxanne, and giving such an emotional plea to pretty much just bring everybody else up to par, and we hope the governor gets to see something like this.
I hope so. Thank you.
And Julie, what brings you here today?
Well, I work on behalf of AZ Schools Now, and we're one of several groups that wanted to come out today and say, enough is enough. It was more than tone deaf of the governor to essentially give these massive pay raises to his staff, while he's telling teachers and the rest of state government there's no money in the budget. It just doesn't make sense. And so I think a lot of parents and teachers, they're just fed up, and they just wanted to say, enough is enough. We're watching you. If you can afford pay raises for your staff, you can afford pay raises for teachers.
And it's funny, you just said it doesn't make sense, but I wanted to ask you, the second question would be, if you were Doug Ducey right now, and you cut pay raise for everybody else, you're 51st in the state, I mean, you're absolutely doing horribly. In your mind, what is the purpose for doing this? For literally not raising pay on teachers, for cutting public funding. In your head, if you were Doug Ducey, what do you think it is he's thinking?
I have no idea. I do know that he has found money to funnel essentially into private schools. And so that is the fear, I think, of a lot of public school advocates, is that we're finding money for private schools. We're finding more and more money to privatize education, but we're not finding money or making money for public schools. And that's a concern, because it does appear as if he's trying to set up two separate and unequal systems, a private system and a public system, both being paid for with taxpayer dollars, but of course very separate and unequal, and with very different barriers to access, and that's a problem. And I think people are starting to cue into that and figure out, and they're saying enough is enough. Like, we're paying attention, we're watching, and we're going to say no more.
And what is it that you feel should be the solution? The solution, whether or not they can find money in the budget, whatever it is, what do you think is the solution to finally appease the teachers, appease the schools, and what would make Doug Ducey look good in your eyes?
Well, a huge pay raise, for one. I mean, we've had tax cuts for decades now, every single year. We've had massive corporate income tax cuts. We were promised that that would make for a booming economy, and it did not. And instead, we've got this poorly funded public education system. Why don't we stop doing the same thing that we've been doing for the last few decades that clearly hasn't worked, and try something new? How about we try investing in public education instead of draining it? I mean, that, I think, would be a brilliant idea, and certainly teachers and parents and really the future of Arizona would benefit from a huge pay increase, not just for our teachers, but to adequately fund our schools. Being 51st is really quite embarrassing.
If you had one thing to say to Doug Ducey right now in his face, what would it be?
I would say stop the tax cuts, invest in public schools.
Beautiful, so eloquent and so simple. Thank you a lot, and hopefully you get what you want.
Thank you.
Hey, what's your name?
Nicky. I'm the Northern Arizona Region Director for the Arizona State PTA.
All right, we got somebody important right here, and somebody who matters. Now tell me, and a mom, so tell me, what do you see is the problem right now in the education system that Doug Ducey has been pushing?
I don't think we have a constant revenue stream for our schools. We can't rely on sales tax. They fluctuate with an unpredictable market. And I think corporate tax cuts are heavy in this state. We have consistently rolled them back, and we're paying for that now. I've heard some figures, up to 74% of Arizona businesses pay the minimum $50 in corporate income taxes, and that's unacceptable. And we can't sustain it, and now we're going broke.
Wow. So considering students are treated, or it should be at least in other states and countries, students and people are treated as investments in which they pay back through the states or the countries that they have worked in. So a lot of times there's free education, there's free other things, but they invest within the jobs by staying in there. Now, considering we are 51st in education and I guess last in teacher pay, what do you think the disconnect is, and what makes any teacher want to come and work in Arizona?
Well, I don't think there's many reasons to want to come work in Arizona right now if you're a teacher. You know, on top of the pay problems that we have, there's a lack of respect from the governor's office, and it goes all the way through the legislature. The teachers feel that. They know that they have no support. They're constantly being told that they have new tests roll out, new curriculum rolled out. They get no pay increases for that additional workload they have. And so I see no reason for an Arizona teacher to be here. Now, the reason that they're staying is because they love Arizona kids. They will stay, and they will outlast probably our governor and all those legislatures because they're more persistent and they fight with love. So they're going to stay for those students as long as they need them to be. And that's something that our governor can't continue to take advantage of.
Now, if you had to get into the governor's head, could you try to explain why his staff gets more of a raise than the teachers would?
That's a tough one. Getting the governor's, that's a tough one to do. I think that he made his policies clear when he ran. He ran on a certain set of guidelines, priorities for him, and it wasn't education, and that inner circle is a priority, and he's made that clear.
And lastly, what would you say to Doug Ducey right now if you had him right in front of you?
I would ask him to really, really, really reach out to the education community. These leaders, they understand what our schools need. They understand how to get it done, and they've really looked at the numbers. We spent a lot of time at the PTA and Arizona schools now, really breaking down the budget for him. So if he needs consultation on this, he can absolutely call a mom. We will sit down. I will battle it out with him. We will have these conversations, and let's really bring in our teachers and ask them what they need and what they're lacking. It very much feels like a one-sided conversation, and we need the education community to come together for our kids.
All right. Well, thank you for taking some time for our podcast.
You're welcome. Thanks,
Hey,
guys.
what's your name?
My name is David Shapiro.
And David, what brings you here today?
Well, I'm a member of the Tempe City Council, and I served here in the legislature for 6 years fighting for our schools. And I'm very disappointed in what I'm seeing since I left the legislature in terms of the governor and the legislature's support for our education system. You have a governor who's raising his staff salaries by 20% and giving teachers a 1% stipend after a recession where many educators didn't see a raise throughout that entire time. You know, I started my career as a high school teacher. He's got staff that are making 7 or 8 times what I made as an educator in Arizona. And I get it. If they're doing a good job, they should get better wages. But you know what? So should teachers in our state. And our governor and legislature are just failing to step up to accomplish that.
Now, it's really embarrassing for us to be so low in teacher pay as well as just in education as a whole. What would you like to do personally in order to bring that up so that we're at least competitive?
Yeah, if we gave a 20% raise to teachers like the governor gave to his staff, we would actually get out of last place. We wouldn't move up much in terms of teacher salaries nationally, but we could at least get out of last place and maybe keep some of the teachers who are being trained at our state university system and at our community colleges. Maybe we could keep them in Arizona instead of them bolting to other states, because they could literally go to any state and make more than they make here.
And do you think that there's some sort of a plan behind Doug Ducey? Because, I mean, in order to be proud of where you are standing in education and not do anything about it is an issue. So what do you think is in his head, or what do you think his motive may be?
You know, it's my belief that Doug Ducey and Diane Douglas, our superintendent of schools in this state, who I'm running against, and I'm hoping to unseat her in that office, those two and the folks in the majority at the legislature, they're working intentionally to dismantle our public school system. This isn't by accident. This isn't neglect. They don't believe that government should be in the business of education. They think that education is a commodity and that it should be bought and sold and somebody should profit. And you should, like Mitt Romney says, you should just get as much education as you can afford. Those of us who believe that educational opportunity should be guaranteed to every Arizona child, we've got to stand up and fight against them and ensure that our kids and the future of our state have the resources that they need in our education system.
And it's true. Now, the way that I see it, I always see that students are investments. They bring back money into the state, they reinvest into it, and it, obviously benefits the state. What do you think is going to happen now in the future of Arizona if we remain this low?
I mean, there is no better economic investment than you can make than education. But we have businesses that have been looking at coming to Arizona, and they look at things like our tax code, and they say, well, you got a real business-friendly tax code. They look at our weather. We can stay open year-round. You don't have to scrape the sunshine off your windshield in the morning. But then they see our education system and see how under-resourced it is, and businesses are deciding not to come to Arizona, not to bring high-wage, high-skilled jobs to our state because of our under-resourced schools. They don't think they can find a sustainable workforce here, and they don't want to bring their families from other places that have better resource schools to send them to schools in Arizona that are under-resourced. And so if we want to drive our economy in the state, if we want to finally come out of the recession, we have to reinvest in our education system.
All right. Well, thank you for your words of wisdom, and hopefully they reach Doug Ducey's ears.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Zod.
And I'm Drea.
And we want you to check out the Zod and Drea podcast every Tuesday.
Where can everybody find us at?
You can always check us out on www.zodanddrea.com.
Where else?
You can always check us out also on Facebook at Zod and Drea.
Instagram?
Zod and Drea.
Snapchat?
Zod and Drea.
YouTube?
Zod and Drea.
I see a pattern.
I see a pattern. So if you haven't caught that, catch us at Zod and Drea on all the social networks. But also, make sure you subscribe to the Zod and Drea podcast. Where?
At zodanddrea.com.
And also on YouTube and iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and iHeartRadio. We're coming for you.
Let us know what you think. And if you want to be a guest, reach out to us.
And put all of your input into whatever our topics are for the week. So we hope to check you out and see you there.
Bye.